The Buckeyes are 1-0.
I know. You know what? That game did not go in any way, shape, or form the way I expected it to. I was expecting it to be a little bit of a shootout. Obviously, I was expecting more offense. And, it's not exactly what material is. I found Ryan Day's comments after the game. We're going to talk to Bill Bender of Sporting News coming up at the top of the hour about this. I thought Ryan Day had some interesting comments about how they intentionally did not want to put too much on Saban's plate right out of the gate. And Day acknowledged in his own way that it was a very conservative, I don't want to say game plan, but approach, right? He had the big miss early in the game. You got to get it to 4. When he's that wide open, you got to get it to him, and he did. And you could see when Day was talking to San on the sideline there, like, hey, you missed an easy touchdown there.
Yep.
But Ryan Day talked about how they intentionally had a pseudo-conservative game plan for saying not to put too much on his plate right out of the gate. And he's like, now hindsight being 2020, I probably should have done more. I probably should have given him more. He probably could have handled more. I found those comments to be interesting. I also really appreciated the way Arch Manning handled his post-game. He's like, hey, you can't wait till the second half in these type of games to get it going. I was too slow to switch early in the games. I got to get into it, a little faster. And even in the second half, it wasn't like it was humming along.
Yeah, he wasn't necessarily automatic Johnson. He had a couple nice throws.
But the thing that surprised me with him yesterday was the inaccuracy. They had a stat, ESPN on ABC last night. I was watching the night game, and they put up a stat where he was like 37% of his passes were off target. And you're obviously not the second coming. Now,
some of the mechanic stuff, dude, too. Like it looked like he was in pain throwing the football.
Well, I also I saw your posts on X last night. And listen, I'm not going to lie, I don't mind a good troll job every once in a while. Every once in a while, as long as I'm not the subject of it. Okay? And they were like, Arch Manning saw Jimmy Haslam in attendance and was like, yeah, no. I have to play my worst so they don't want to draft me.
Turn back into Deshaun Kaiser.
There were so many of those posts on X last night. I got a kick out of it. But, come on.
Well, and it's just one game for Arch Manning, right? But and for Texas, the way that this 12-team playoff works now, like if Texas runs the table, they're still going to be a playoff team.
Right.
Arch Manning's going to have an opportunity to bounce back from this. But for 1 week, as Browns fans and as fans of a team that will have what we expect to be 2 top picks in the upcoming NFL draft, I've cooled on Arch Manning. I have. I see why Archie Manning said what he said about him returning back to Texas next year. I see what Jimmy Haslam said what he said. I mean, he looked like a kid with a lot of work to do and a lot of things to figure out. Like, I saw some, Twitter breakdowns and people that do a good job breaking down the mechanics of quarterback play. I mean, his footwork was a mess. The inaccuracy was wild at times. The way that the ball came out of his hands, like for a guy that's attended the Manning Passing Academy since the time he was a teenager.
He is a Manning.
He looked like he was in pain throwing it. And I know everybody, you mentioned the trolls, like all the people. Remember, this was the Manning that's the son of the one that didn't play in the National Football League. Like everybody was getting their licks in about that as well. Yeah. But for just 1 week here, Daryl, I have cooled on the prospect of Arch Manning coming to Cleveland. He's got time to change that opinion and to change my thoughts. But for now, I'm looking elsewhere. I was tuned into the night game to see Klubnik versus Nussmeier. I was tuned in to what Drew Aller was doing, the local Medina kid at Penn State, who's kind of emerging as my favorite quarterback in the upcoming QB class. Like after Arch Manning laid that egg, I was like, oh boy, this is a guy that I'm not sure I'm interested in investing a number 1 overall pick into or a top first round pick into, because he's got some work to do.
Yeah, and this is the new problem with college football. Okay, there's Arch Manning commercials in the game. And see, with that,
he could have used another pair of those glasses.
Right. Well, when there's big dollars involved, the expectations change. The reality is Arch Manning's still a kid. What you watched yesterday, okay? Those are kids basically out there playing. Yes, now they're getting NIL and they're getting their cut of the revenue, which, by the way...
Right, he just turned 21.
They should get. Okay, I am... unless the universities were going to use the television money to provide free college tuition for everybody, okay, the tens of millions of dollars they get in revenue a year, unless they were going to use that money for the betterment of education at their universities and to make it affordable for everyone else instead of just pocketing it or spending it to redo the football and basketball team locker rooms every year, okay, or put suites in their stadiums. Because, again, I'm old school. Like, the horseshoe should have been filled with the entire student body of Ohio State. With all due respect to all the alumni and the fans, like, the purity of the college experience now has been overtaken by the business of college football. And so now I'm looking at Arch Manning not as a 21-year-old kid making, I think it was his 3rd college start, okay, on the road in a hostile environment, defending national champions, all that. I'm looking at, well, he's the guy pitching shorts and shoes and product. I'm looking at him through the lens of he's a professional football player. I mean, and so I'm sitting there thinking, this guy stinks. This guy can't throw. And then I have to stop myself. He's a 21-year-old kid.
It's a fascinating point because who do you usually see as the star of those commercials? Your Patrick Mahomes, your Peyton Mannings, your Shaquille O'Neals, the guys that are legitimate Hall of Famers is what you're accustomed seeing in those commercial spots. So yeah, a big piece of Arch and the NIL and just like this superstardom that surrounded him coming into this game. It felt like the players on the field that were wearing scarlet and gray, though, like they didn't care about any of that. Yep. Like they treated Arch Manning like he was just another dude, and that's why Buckeye fans should be really optimistic about what they saw take place, because that Ohio State defense was not fazed in the slightest. And maybe it says less about Arch Manning than it does about Ohio State, and we got to monitor how this entire season unfolds. But just to the naked eye, I mean, the kid he didn't look good. Late in the game, he put together a couple throws that maybe moved me a little bit and said, okay, now those are throws that you could see an NFL quarterback making.
The touchdown pass was a thing of beauty.
But you could even have the argument there whether that was caught or dropped, and they reviewed that.
It was a touchdown. That's another thing. We're getting way too carried away with this.
The replays of the commercials.
Film of
I forgot about that in college sports, man.
There were 6 of those yesterday because I was channel surfing, and it felt like every time I turned on a game, they're doing this Zapruder film, frame by frame breakdown of the. I'm just like, oh man,
dude. I walked up to the gas station.
And the games take 4 hours to play.
I walked up to the gas station at the corner of my street, bought a Powerball ticket, and returned home, and the play was still under review. Right. I was like, goodness, man. I just walked the neighborhood, made a purchase, returned home, and we're still looking at the same play.
I mean, I realized like they got to get all their commercials in and stuff, but goodness gracious. Like, I just, man, but the lens with which I'm like watching this yesterday, it was changed by that a little bit. And that's why I opened the show with, well, aren't I supposed to just sit here and just torch this kid and beat him up because he didn't play well and he's not the second coming?
You think he's going to bounce back, or do you think that this is what he is?
Yeah, no, I think and I've said this about these rookie quarterbacks, Shador and Dillon of the Browns, like, nothing that these kids are going to do this year, And we know they're going to be forced to be played. But nothing that they're going to do this year is a fair referendum on them. No matter how we are going to try to make it be a referendum on them, it's not a fair referendum. You can't. I keep going back. Troy Aikman was 1-15 his rookie year with the Dallas Cowboys.
Right.
You had, look at Josh Allen. It took him a couple seasons with the Buffalo Bills to find his footing. Patrick Mahomes didn't play as a rookie. It takes a little bit. It
absolutely does. I wonder for Arch, though, how Ohio State fans and Browns fans and NFL fans are. You like to look at your quarterback prospects and your young players and how they perform against really good teams. I'm looking at Arch Manning, and Ohio State is usually the barometer. If you play well against Ohio State, people want you in the National Football League. Yeah. So I wonder if, even though it was the first start of his QB1 career in college football, I wonder if this is going to change how people view Arch Manning, because he stunk it up against the Buckeyes. And okay, you could ball out against SJSU and UTEP and Sam Houston, and we're going to have to see how he looks against Florida and Oklahoma, but it's going to be in the back of college football fan minds everywhere that you didn't play that well against Ohio State. When you had the opportunity to pass a big test, albeit in the first game of the season, you failed it if you're Arch Manning. That's just my opinion, but that's kind of how I look at this thing. Like, we love nothing more. Like, I was all, you want to know, Daryl, when I knew, like, in 2018 that I was going to be all in on Baker, it was when he planted the flag on the block O. I was like, this guy, not only did he go out there and he played really well against Ohio State and all these dudes that are going to get drafted to the National Football League on this defense, but he's also a little bit nuts. He planted the flag. I was like, I want Baker on my football team.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be a lot of people that look at Arch Manning now and say, I don't know, because against an NFL, as close as you'll find to an NFL defense, which is Ohio State, he did not perform.
Yeah.